Hello everyone and welcome to our Silver Moments. My name is Colleen. If you have not visited our channel before, I would really love it if you watched it through to the end and hit the subscribe button. That would be fantastic. Or like the video, that helps us too. Today I am going to work on something that's really simple to can. That I haven't shared on here before, and I certainly didn't intend on doing it today, but you know, as the old farm saying goes, you have to make hay while the sun shines. And today I'm going to can salmon, and I will gather up the things that I need and be back just in a few minutes. I went downtown earlier today to pick up a few groceries, things that I wanted to have on hand so that I could make a couple of videos for you. And I realized while I was in the grocery store that they had the fresh caught wild sockeye salmon fillets. And we don't often get them in the store that haven't previously been frozen. And this is the perfect time of the year for us to be getting the sockeyes, and I was excited. The price is, you know, you pay dear for salmon, but this is an amazingly healthy food for us to eat, filled with omega-3s, helps with our brains, our skin, so many things. So I thought today, as long as I had the opportunity to, I was going to can up some salmon. And as you know, salmon doesn't keep. So I wanted to get it into the jars as quickly as I could so that we have this put away for various recipes that we like to have salmon in. I like to make salmon cakes with the canned salmon. As well as just having it in a sandwich. We enjoy salmon in a salad also. Maybe I don't have a video showing you some of these recipes, but I'll try and link to a couple that I know of down below in the description box, which is where you find all the information about the videos that I create, down there in the description box. That includes the recipes too. But today's recipe is so super simple. It's just really 2 ingredients. It's the fish and a bit of salt. And if you're watching your salt, you can definitely skip that step. Now it has been in the tray, so I'm just going to double check it and make sure that it's in good condition, which it is. It's just beautiful. I'm going to give it a quick rinse at my kitchen sink. I can feel that there are pin bones in there. But I am not going to worry about them for today's application, because when you pressure can fish, it softens the bones enough that you can eat them. I don't necessarily like bones in my fish, but these little bones I'd be fine with. So if you're not, you can definitely get your tweezers and pick them out. I'm just going to rinse this and I'll be right back. Now I've rinsed both of the fillets, and you can see that they're beautiful and bright. This sockeye smells really fresh. It's nice and fatty, which we want. I am not a fan of skin on canned fish, but I am definitely going to leave the skin on this salmon because it definitely adds to the flavor once it's been cooked in the jar, and then you can remove it after that if you want to. Now we're going to use 1/2 pint jars, and you definitely want to leave enough room in the jar for the salmon to expand, because like anything, when it's heated it expands, and we don't want to lose the liquid that it's going to create, nor do we want to have the jar not sealed because of something that we did. So I just took a piece of parchment paper and I cut it so that it fits down inside the jar, and I will use that for my guide for cutting the salmon. You're going to want some smaller chunks to fill in the gaps and bigger chunks because it goes a little faster. So I'm just going to start cutting the salmon, and we will get this process going. I'm interested to know if you've ever had salmon that was canned at home, or if it's something that you have never tried but you would, or if you are even in an area where you would have access to sockeye salmon, which is a Pacific Coast salmon, mostly in the, I guess, what would they call that area? The North Pacific area. So I'm in British Columbia, and we definitely can get it, not in the area that I am in, but in our province. So it's pretty local to us. It hasn't come from across the water or from California or somewhere. Although I know that if you live in Washington and Oregon, you probably have access to it, because this salmon in particular is in the Columbia River and its tributaries. So you can, I'm just gonna stack this all on a plate until I'm ready for it. Some of these I know that I'm going to have to cut to make smaller to fill up the gaps in the jars. Now, like the same way that we can meat, we can salmon with no added moisture in the jar. So we do not add any chicken stock or fish stock to this. We just allow the fish to make its own juice in the jar. I'm noticing a few specks of scales on my cutting board, so I'm just going to wipe that out of my way. And unless you're doing like a lot of fish, I'm only doing these 2 fillets, but this parchment paper works just fine. And I'm just going to cut this last one in half because I will need some small spaces. So, I hope that you're keeping up so far, and that this is something that you may be interested in. I know it's that time of the year, and this run of salmon doesn't last that long, so we definitely have to get it when we can and take care of it in the best way that we know how. Now, you may be wondering how we're canning this. We definitely have to use a pressure canner for this, although I know people who have been water bath canning salmon for years, and all kinds of fish, not just salmon. But the powers that be tell us that we need to pressure can salmon or fish and meat. So I am going to follow their directions on this, although we have definitely done it in a water bath canner. You just need to look up one of the old canning recipes and you would be set. The salmon, and in fact most meats, are not as likely to contain the botulism spores, because the meat, or the salmon, hasn't touched the ground, which seems to be the biggest concern, that the botulism spores are on our vegetables and fruit. We know it's in the air. There's things we can do to protect ourselves from that, and one of them is to properly can things. I am not saying that that's all I do, but I'm saying that that's the approved method. Now I'm just going to move my knife and my board off to the side and bring that salmon over here. Got this one jar here, but I have more in the sink. I've washed them and taken them out of storage and washed them, because you know, from one year to the next you don't need them. And I'm not sure I have enough out here, but we'll see how we make out. So if you follow the ball book, they tell you to place the skin side out. It doesn't matter to me one way or another whether the skin side is out, and that you want to really pack these jars. Now, as I said before, I may have been a little generous. You want to definitely give them enough room in there, and I think those need to come back out of there and have a bit of a haircut, because I want them to fit better in the jars than that. My husband is actually not, he loves fish, he just doesn't love salmon as much as I do. So I know that this amount of salmon will last us from one canning season to the next, as far as canned salmon goes. We do enjoy having fresh salmon once in a while, me more so than he. Everybody's going to get a haircut, I think. But we're both kind of fussy about our fish, and I have preferences and so does he, and so we work to each other's strengths. There's things that I don't care for at all, then I cook it for him and I cook something different for me. And that's how you have to compromise. Now, that is good. So I'm just going to continue to pack all of these into the jars, and then I will bring you back for the next step. Now I managed to get 8 jars of salmon. One of them's a bit skimpy, but that'll be fine. 8 jars of salmon, and I'm just going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt to each jar. This is completely at your discretion. The salt doesn't aid in the canning process. It's just for flavor. So yeah, take and use that as you will. But I would also recommend that you use something like Mediterranean sea salt or pickling salt instead of using table salt, because the table salt has anti-clumping agents in it that cloud the water. And not that that really matters a lot, but if you're looking for a pristine juice in here, you're not going to find it that way. So these jars, I'm not adding anything else to them. I'm going to wipe the rims down. I've got some white vinegar here. I'm going to wipe the rims down to make sure there's no, scales or bits of fish, because it can be quite sticky. Just to make sure I'm going to get a good clean seal, because while I did get a good price on this salmon, it is still very dear, and I do not want to do anything that would interfere with the seal on these jars. This is going to create its own juice. I think I've probably already said that, so we don't need to add anything to it. Fish is definitely canned longer than meat. If you are a meat canner, then you'll already know that. But for those of you that have never done this process before, fish, even in the half-pint jars, it's recommended that you do can it for the full 100 minutes. So I'm using 4-jar seals. I found them some time ago now, and I found them to be really useful. You may find that as well, so I'm just going to drop the link in the description box below to help you out. So I am going to put these on fingertip tight, snug, but definitely not cranking down on it. There's no need for that, I guess, these days. Although I remember my mom and pop just like really reefing them down, and even when they came out of the canner, they reefed them down some more to make sure that they were tight, and they never had failures. So I don't know why it's changed in the last few years, but it has, so let's recommend it. I'm we're going to put them today in my Nesco small batch canner. The lid's clean. And then I'll give you an idea how this works too. So I have the canner right here, it's plugged in. I'll just try and make some room so that I can bring it over here so that you can see what I'm doing. I love this canner very much, and I've had a number of people ask me about it recently, and everywhere I've looked it's sold out. In fact, I went on to wayfair.ca to have a look the other day, and they said that it wouldn't be restocked before June of 2023. So they're a pretty popular item, and of course with all the backlog of things, I'm sure that that's a big reason for that, if they can't get the parts they need to make the canners, because like almost any appliance, the parts come from various places all over the world, and then they're brought together in a central place and everything's assembled. So into my Nesco canner that I have the wire rack in the bottom that holds the jars up off the bottom, I'm going to add 5 of these jars, these half pint wide mouth jars, and they fit quite snugly together. And then I'm going to add the divider today and add the other 3 jars on top. Now I'm going to close the lid. I'm going to put it into place, which locks it. I'm going to make sure that my weighted gauge, which is on the back of the canner, and one of the reasons that I bought this canner was because the other pressure canner that was on the market, the electric one, didn't have a weighted gauge, or a different weighted gauge. So really they were only safe to use if you were under 1,000 feet. So that's why I chose this one, because it comes with 2 weighted gauges, one for under 1,000 and one for over 1,000. It's not ideal probably, because a lot of the things that I'm cooking at 15 pounds pressure with my weighted gauge should only be about 11 or 12 pounds, but I've contacted the company and they don't seem to have any plan to make additional gauges at this time. So this is what we're doing. So I'm going to set this thing high, 100 minutes, because that's what's recommended for fish. And I'm going to make sure I'm on exhaust, and I'm going to hit start. Now this will go around and around until the pressure or the heat builds up there enough that it starts to blow the steam out the top. It's perfectly normal for steam to come out through the whole process. There's 8 cups of water in there, so that's plenty of water to do a 100-minute pressure can. And after it's been going about 15 minutes and the pressure has reached the desired spot in here, it's going to beep, and when it beeps, I'll switch the weighted gauge to airtight. And at that point, once the pressure builds up again, it's going to start counting down the time I've put on it. So it's a pretty simple process. So after I am done, after the kettle has finished cooking, the little red pressure button back here will fall down. And once it falls down, I open the lid just a crack, and I usually just stick a knife or something in there just to hold it open just a crack for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then I lift the lid and let the jars sit in there maybe another 10 minutes just to help it acclimatize a little bit. And then after that I remove them and put them onto a towel on the counter, and I leave them undisturbed for 24 hours so that I don't have to worry about them getting bumped or anything coming in contact with the jars that could break the seal. So I hope that you found this video useful, and that if you have, you would share it with your friends, like, subscribe. If you shared it on your Facebook, that would be fantastic. I would appreciate that very much. And I will see you again soon with some fresh summer salad recipes that don't contain lettuce. and I hope that you will enjoy those as well. And I will see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.